It's important to study history so that you don't get complacent about your own time, so that you realize that some of the issues and some of the issues that you're facing have been presenting themselves to people your age earlier on in time with different ways of dealing with them, of course, slightly different choices, but in many cases the same issues. So a lot of what we're facing today is not new. And it helps you be aware of the complexity of society, of culture, of issues of citizenship, of choices, and those are reasons why studying history is important, apart from being fun.
Resistance among enslaved men, women, and children began the moment they were captured and took many different forms. Some chose to do the following: speak in their native language in private, perform music with drumming to intimidate, and to disguise plans of liberation in the sound of the music, appearing to accept Christianity but secretly practicing their own religion, running away, poisoning their masters, pretending to be sick in order not to work, or damaging tools and machinery. Slave rebellions tended to be less threatening in Barbados than on other Caribbean islands. Barbados had a well-armed police force, and there was nowhere to hide. Unlike Jamaica, which still had forests, most of the land in Barbados had been cultivated to produce as much sugar as possible. What is known of Bussa is that the European slave merchants captured him in the 18th century, sold to the British, then transported as a slave to Barbados.
Massa is never here. He lives in England. He left the estate in control of Colonel John Rycroft Best, who has plantations in Christchurch.
On Sunday, the 14th of April, 1816, a major rebellion broke out in Barbados. The rebellion was carefully planned and organized by the senior enslaved men and women who worked on several estates and plantations.
My position as head ranger gives me privileges the others don't have. I have my own horse and I ride around the plantation. I have the right to travel, to organize dances and other events. These dances give us the opportunity to plan what we would be doing. We would arrange a dance with a noise would ensure that not even Massa's informers could have an ear or even a clue. Locally, at Bailey's, there are 5 others: King the Carpenter, Dick Bailey, the Mason, and 3 Johnnies: the Standard Bearer, the Cooper, and another Ranger. I was a part of a privileged slave class, usually made up of literate slaves who were skillful both in language and artistry. This group of privileged slaves could be found among persons who were skilled like carpenters, blacksmiths and those who worked in the fields supervising first, second and third gangs. Others included those who worked in the home like cooks, butlers, coachmen and those who looked after the sick slaves. This made me a good candidate for the unofficial FRO, the Freedom Revolt Organization.
The quest for freedom started in the evening in the southeast parish of St. Philip, spreading to the most southern and central parishes of Christchurch, St. John, St. Thomas, St. George, and parts of St. Michael. 3 days later, it was put down by the local militia and the imperial troops stationed on the island. Martial law was declared on Monday the 15th of April and was lifted on the 12th of July.
Joseph P. Washington Franklin was a colored man who lived at Vineyard Plantation very close to Belize. He was in the habit of reading to us extracts from the newspapers of the day. Word had come that we will get our freedom. We had heard it in the news that the French people had their own revolution and had killed their king, and the Haitian revolution with Toussaint Louverture, so it was aware from discussions with Franklin that the people in Haiti had their freedom and we wanted ours too.
On April the 14th, 1816, Bussa led a large-scale revolt against the Barbadian elitist plantocracy. This resulted in tremendous battle between the slaves, the planters, and the West India Regiment, a part of the British Army, and had a significant impact on the historical development of Barbados.
Now there were some Barbadian planters like the Lascelles family who owned many plantations. They were spending money to get rid of Mr. Wilberforce in the British House of Parliament because he was representing us. I made up my mind that the plantations owned by Mr. Lascelles would be attacked first in the revolt. The free-colored were more concerned about themselves than with helping us. They wanted to get their freedom and help the white people. So when a free-colored like Mr. Franklin was willing to work with us, we decided that after the revolt, we would make Mr. Franklin our governor. The whites were divided. The old plantation whites who had money and power had controlled the system for too long. They were now being challenged by the poor whites who wanted power as well. We as slaves wanted our rights too. And the only right we wanted was freedom, and the only way to get it was to fight for it. We knew it was difficult to win, but we were willing to sacrifice our lives.
It was the most massive slave revolt in Barbadian history, lasting 2 days, whereby hundreds of slaves rose in rebellion under the leadership of Bussa. The planning was undertaken at several sugar estates, and among his collaborators were Washington Franklin, John, and Nanny Grigg, a senior domestic slave, as well as many other slaves and black revolutionaries.
We had to plan properly. We arranged what was to be the signal for the revolt. We would start burning some trash heaps to alert those on standby in Christchurch, St. George and St. Philip. Most of the rebellion was located in these areas, and we felt that once we started, the entire island would join in because we outnumbered the whites dramatically. Easter 1816 was the date set for the rebellion. One meeting that really stands out to me was the one held at River Estate on Good Friday in April 1816. It was the final planning meeting. They even went ahead and named Washington Franklin the new governor. The plan was, Sunday Master cry for water, Monday he would cry for blood. I sent down my men to start the first battle at Lotus Plantation in Christchurch. 40 of the slaves were killed in this battle. We were surprised that they used black troops against us. We were surprised that they used black troops against us. Some of my men thought that we had the support of our brothers, but this turned out to be a deadly deception. Some of my men thought that we had the support of our brothers, but this turned out to be a deadly deception. News reached the militia's headquarters at the garrison approximately 2 a.m. the Sunday night, but the rallying of the troops could not be completed before 10 a.m. By then, fire was burning at many plantations in St. Philip. In Christchurch, these felt the first blow of the militia, which consisted of the 1st West India Regiment. St. John, St. George and St. Lucy were also ablaze.
Carefully executed by approximately 400 slaves, the Bussa rebellion was geared towards overthrowing the white planter class in an attempt to regain freedom, restructure the politics of the island, and create a better life for black and people of colour. Unfortunately, as with many freedom fighters, Bussa was killed in a revolt, forced into submission by the regiment, who had an armoury of superior weapons at their disposal. 50 enslaved people also died in the struggle, and 70 were executed in the field. Another 300 were taken to Bridgetown for trial. 144 were executed. "132 were sent to another island. The slave rebellion is documented as the most significant revolt in the history of Barbados.
We outnumbered them many to 1, but they had the superior firepower. By the end of the fight, many lay dead and many more wounded, like Jose Marti in Cuba. I also paid the ultimate sacrifice in that battle. But the bravery of the slaves must be honored. They continued the fight until they finally were overpowered or captured. They still talk of me. In the Times, a Barbados newspaper, in 1876 they named the April 22nd to 24th, 1816 revolution after me, referring to it as the War of General Bussa.
Although not much is known about the man, Bussa was born a free man in West Africa. There is no biographical information available about Bussa. His actual birth name remains a mystery, as does the majority of his life. Nevertheless, Bussa's legacy lives on. The man Barbadians fondly remember as Bussa played an integral role in changing the social and political climate of the island forever. Bussa the Igbo had the strength of character and passion for enforcing change. It is this courage and sheer determination that is recorded in the history books. In 1985, 169 years after the revolt, a giant bronze statue, the Emancipation Statue, was erected on a roundabout situated on the ABC Highway in Barbados in honor of Bussa. The statue represents a slave breaking free from chains, symbolizing strength of emancipation, and is a nod to the courageous freedom fighter, who is now a Barbadian household name. In 1998, by an Act of Parliament, Bussa was again publicly honoured by being named as one of the 10 official national heroes of Barbados for his significant contribution to the island's history and development. This influential and historical figure in Barbadian history represents emancipation and freedom to many, and his legacy will live on in the hearts and minds of Barbadians for generations to come. 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 I hope you found this interesting and, as always, provoking thought. Thank you for watching Thoughts Camera Action. Before you go anywhere, don't forget to click subscribe.